Well, Elon, thanks so much for being here today. So we're going to talk a little bit today about innovation. For those of you in the audience that nothing that was introduced about Elon made it to the prefrontal cortex, and you're like, I still don't know who this guy is. You may remember him from the movie role in Iron Man 2, or the TV show The Big Bang Theory. You may remember him, if you're old like me, when you used to have to do dial-in modems. You may remember how PayPal actually worked over a dial-in modem.
Yeah.
And if, just in case you've had your head in the sand for the last decade, you absolutely have to know him for space exploration technologies. SpaceX, a tremendous partner of the United States Air Force in the space business, and for Tesla. So, Elon, question number one. When you put a weapon system or a product into production, and you start delivering it to your customers, very, very frequently there is a pushback within the production organization that, you know, we don't want to change that product too much. It's successful. We have a lot of legacy systems that we're responsible for in the Department of the Air Force. There is a lot of reticence at times to incrementally improve or add new capabilities to those systems. From the context of Tesla and SpaceX, how do you motivate your workforce? How do you work with your customers? How do you work with technologists in your ecosystems, your various ecosystems, to try and make sure that products don't become stagnant and they continue to incrementally improve over time?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. It's an honor to be here with you and with everyone else from the Space/Air Force. And I've obviously had a long relationship with the Air Force and very much appreciate the support over the years. So I just want to make sure to say that. And look forward to doing a lot of interesting things in the future. I think it's actually it's cool that there is that the creation of the Space Force is happening. I think it makes sense that there's a major branch for every domain, with that, so the domain of space and the domain of air are both important, but I think space is certainly a medium of its own.
Sure.
I think there's some very exciting things that are possible. If I may just say, like, what the public wants, I think, and actually I'm pretty confident that the public does want this, is Starfleet Academy. Or like, yeah, like how do we make Star Trek real? That'd be pretty amazing. I'd love that. So I think like the fastest we can make sort of Starfleet real, then we should try to do that.
Well, so Elon,
yeah.
speaking for the United States Space Force, there already is a Starfleet Academy. It's the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Sure. Nope, I've been there. I've given a talk, and the first launch of Falcon 1, we had a Falcon sat from the Air Force Academy. That rocket blew up, but but then the funny thing is that it blew up. Like, this truth is stranger than fiction. The satellite was shot through the fairing, arced through the air a couple hundred meters, and then plunged through the roof of a tool shed, and then landed on the floor. And was actually in reasonably good shape. I mean, for crashing through the ceiling, but you're like recognizable, And we gave it back, and so we've not lost one of your satellites.
So from a SpaceX perspective,
buff it out.
a partial mission success.
Yeah, it's like, well, it's not lost. I'm just saying, it's a little the worse for wear, but you know, but here you go. But then we subsequently launched future Falcon sats to actual orbit. That was great. So I think we can go a long way towards making Starfleet real and making these sort of utopian or semi-utopian futures real. But it will definitely require radical innovation. One can't get there by incrementally innovating expendable boosters. There's just no way.
Yeah.
So I think we need to push for radical breakthroughs. And if you don't push for radical breakthroughs, you're not going to get radical outcomes. And that does mean taking risks. And common sense that if you take a big risk, in order to have a big reward, there must be a big risk. Most of the time, you cannot find big reward for small risk. Those are rare. So you're going to have some proportionality with the risk and reward. But if the goal is important enough, and I think increasingly the goal is important for many reasons. The goal of having the best technology in space, that is, I think, going to become increasingly important, and it'll be increasingly important for the United States to use what I think is its greatest attribute, which is invention and innovation, to create space technology that is the best in the world. And in fact, I think if the United States does not use breakthrough innovation, it will fall behind. Yeah. So I think this is not something that was a risk in times past, but I think is a risk now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Do you characterize that risk in terms of peer adversary competition around the planet? Are you suggesting that it's our adversaries that require us to be those radical innovators, or is it just we can't become complacent and stay incrementally improving our systems? We must take those giant leaps forward as a nation, regardless of the competition.
I think there's I have zero doubt that if the United States does not seek great innovations in space, it will be second in space.
Okay.
With as sure as night follows day. So it is a big deal. But this is a very innovative. There's no country more innovative and inventive than the United States. So it's just important to use that attribute. That's the ace card.
Okay.
Yeah.
And since it seems like we're going down the geopolitical path here on the questions, how does the United States as a nation maintain that innovative edge, that ability to invest in things and take those risks? What kind of governmental policies or processes do we have to encourage the right kinds of behavior in your view?
Well, I think having outcome-based procurement is actually very important.
Okay.
So you say, like, this is the outcome that is sought, and whoever can achieve this outcome or achieve this outcome to a greater degree, that company that's who the Air Force will do business with, and will procure the thing that is radically innovative as measured by what is important for leadership in space. So I mean, I do think it's absolutely fundamental to achieve full reusability in access to space. This is the holy grail of space. At the point at which you have full reusability for orbital rockets, then you have a profound advantage over anyone else. It's profound. It would be like if in the Air Force, if you had planes that could be used once, and or if you had multi-use planes that could be flown over and over again, like normal, and all your adversaries had single-use planes, that would be no contest. It's the same thing in space.
Okay.
Yeah, this is extremely fundamental. So the cost of propellant is typically on the order of 1% of the cost of the vehicle, or less. So if you have a vehicle that is, say, I don't know, locks kerosene, like Falcon 9 or something like that, you know, it's the oxygen and the fuel are, yeah, maybe $500,000 or something like that. But then, depending upon the mission price can be anywhere from like $60 to $100 million. So now Falcon 9 is a partially reusable vehicle, but not fully. The vehicle we're working on right now, which is quite difficult, is Starship. And yeah, that has the potential for full reusability. But I think it would be great to have other companies as well that are doing full reusability. I think competition is a good thing. It may seem at times that, you know, shouldn't we focus all our efforts on one system, and rather than divide them and have two competing systems? Like, you know, not to cause controversy, but like, in my opinion, like, Joint Strike Fighter, there should be a competitor to JSF. That's I know it's a controversial subject, but you know, I think it's not good to have one provider. It's good to have competition where that competition is meaningful, and somebody can actually lose. That's like, you know, so then so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in radical innovation, obviously the workforce is a really key component of that. I mean, during your PayPal days, you were actually doing coding, right? But in SpaceX and Tesla, they are so large that Elon can't do everything. What sort of things do you think about in terms of motivating a workforce like we have in the Department of the Air Force that will help them become more radically innovative? What sort of things do you look for in people or in processes that make the workforce better?
Sure. Well, I think the massive thing that can be done is to make sure your incentive structure is such that innovation is rewarded and lack of innovation is punished. There's got to be a carrot and a stick. So if somebody is innovating and making good progress, then they should be promoted sooner. And if somebody is completely failing to innovate, not every role requires innovation, but if they're in a role where innovation should be happening and it's not happening, then they should either not be promoted or exited. And let me tell you, you'll get promoted. You'll get innovation real fast.
Okay. The stick.
Yeah. It's like, how much do you want?
Yeah. So, in terms of different kinds of technology, whether it's artificial intelligence or medical or batteries or whatever, in the next 5 years, what technology do you think will see the most advancement?
Well, it's difficult to assess most in those context because they're very different. But I think probably the most fundamentally transformative will be AI.
AI, okay. And if you were recommending to some of the young officers and enlisted troops in the room what sort of degrees to pursue at college, or what sort of education that they should prioritize for themselves in the modern era, what would you recommend?
Computer science and physics.
Computer science and physics, okay. How many computer science people do we have out there? How many physics people? Okay, we need more, apparently. Okay.
I mean, it's essentially information theory and physical theory. If you want to understand the nature of the universe, these have a very good predictive power, physics and computer science.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As a nation that is interested in radical innovation to maintain its competitive edge, what are the things that the Department of the Air Force should be investing more in other than reusable rockets, from your perspective?
Again, I can't emphasize enough how important reusable rockets are. You know, you'll love it. It's great. And I think that you could actually do point-to-point on Earth with, to go long distances and be much better than aircraft. Because, I mean, basically, just think of like ICBM minus the nuke, add land, So it's just sort of in the option package, just, uncheck nuke and then add landing system, check. And that's definitely going to get you wherever you want to go the fastest. Because that's why they made ICBMs. They get there the fastest. So, I think that's going to be pretty exciting. Yeah, I think. Yeah. I mean, once you have a dramatically lower cost access to space, then many things are enabled. You can think of like, once you got the Union Pacific Railroad, then getting to the West Coast was much faster and much less dangerous.
Yeah.
You're not likely to sort of end up eating your compatriots in a snowy situation. So you can just take the train. So in the beginning they thought, why the heck are they building that stupid railway? There's nobody there. and they're like, but once you build the railway, they're like, okay, now it's easy to get to the West Coast, and now a huge portion of the U.S. population is on the West Coast. And actually, California is the most populous state in the nation. But it used to be, well, least populous, I suppose, or pretty low. So many things are possible once the transport problem is solved. So that's why I think it's so fundamental. But if you can't get there, or getting there takes a long time, and you can't risk, and every mission's got to work, then it's very hard to innovate.
Yeah.
It's got to be that, okay, some missions won't work, and the cost of running the experiment is low. That's why I'm harping so much on the cost of transport. Once you're there, I think, say, establishing a base on the moon or base on Mars, there's just a tremendous amount of work that's needed to create a self-sustaining base on the moon or Mars, and it opens up a tremendous amount of opportunity, just as the Union Pacific Railroad did, by making access to the West Coast much easier.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, outside of the space realm, I think there's still a lot of opportunity in tunnels. I've been saying that for a long time. And tunnels are great. They're really great. And the Boring Company is about to finish its first tunnel in Vegas. I encourage people to please copy The Boring Company, or do better, that'd be great. There's a lot of...
So in terms of domains, you have subterranean.
Yeah.
Obviously, Tesla covers the ground domain as capabilities. You've got the space domain covered with SpaceX and Starlink capabilities. I think this is the air warfare symposium. Folks in the audience might be interested in if you have any ideas for the air domain specifically.
Well, for the air domain, I think things are definitely going to go into kind of autonomous, or locally autonomous drone warfare is where it's at, where the future will be. I'm just saying, it's not I want the future to be this. It's just this is what the future will be.
Okay.
Is autonomous drone warfare. And at a local level, can't believe I'm saying this because this is like dangerous, but it's simply what will occur is sort of drones locally being autonomous but I think we still want to retain sort of the authority to damage or destroy anything that isn't an autonomous drone. Keep that authority back here with a person in the loop.
Okay.
But it's the fighter jet era has passed. That is, it's just, yeah, the fighter jet era has passed.
Okay.
So it's drones.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk.